Okay, welcome everybody. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are. We're going to go ahead and get started so we can stay on schedule here. My name is Lauren. I am a Senior Assistant Director of International Admissions at MCPHS, and we are really thrilled to have you all on the call today. So I'm going to provide a brief overview of what we're doing here, why we're here, and then I will also introduce the team that we have on the call today. And then our students and our faculty member will take it away. So again, I do have some housekeeping notes I want to go over. So we do have a Q&A section at the bottom of our call here today. So while we are on the call, please feel free to ask questions from the start to the finish. We will have plenty of people on the call who can answer your questions. And we actually have the entire international admissions team here as well. So any people that have questions, we will have your direct camp counselor be answering them. We will also hold a live Q&A session at the end where all of your questions are answered verbally. So with that being said, we have a chat feature. If the chat feature isn't opening for you, then you can go ahead in the Q&A and mention where you're viewing from. So we would love to know if you're viewing this webinar from Turkey or Taiwan, maybe you're in Mumbai or Massachusetts. So please take a moment and jump into either the chat or the Q&A and introduce yourself so that your direct counselor can also connect with you. So with that being said, we are here to discuss which pharmacy program is the right one for me. And these programs that we're going to be discussing are really for undergraduate students. So if you're in high school and you're considering going to university soon, or if you're planning on transferring from one university into MCPHS for a pharmacy program, you are in the right spot. If you are a graduate student or if you are looking to go into graduate school soon, we will have a program for you in January and you can stay on the call. You're welcome to, you'll still learn. But these programs that we're talking about today will be geared towards the undergrad population. So with that being said, I am going to go ahead and get going here. All right, so a brief introduction that I think is really important. So why do we want to have this webinar with you today? Why did we think that this would be really important for you? So we have seen an absolute explosion of investments in research and development of vaccines and pharmaceuticals. And a big part of that is thanks to the pandemic that we all had just a few years ago. So just between 2020 and 2021, we saw over 17% increase in the biopharma research and development workforce in Massachusetts alone. And to any of you who don't know, we are located in Boston, Massachusetts. I have a handy map here for you all to see. And on this map, you can see where MCPHS is located and where really great institutions are, whether they're hospitals or pharmaceutical research companies. We are in very, very close vicinity to these organizations. So in addition to that, we also have seen over 15% increase in biomanufacturing during that time period too, and the numbers are continuing to grow. So a huge benefit of going into these programs now and also going into them at MCPHS is our wonderful vicinity to these organizations nearby us and the network of contacts that we have. And additionally, we now have guaranteed internships for non-clinical programs. So you'll see a variation of our clinical programs and our non-clinical programs today. So that's a little bit of background about why we think this is so important and why we're glad to have you on the call to learn a little bit more about it. So our panelists today, we are lucky enough to have Dr. Stephen Kerr on the call. We'll give a really good introduction to him in just a moment. And then we also have Alyssa Rosenblum on the call. She's here for Pharmaceutical Science. She's a current student. Julie Lee is here for PharmD. She's also a current student and one of our international student ambassadors. Some of you might have actually already spoken with her. And then we also have Revanth on the call, who is here for Pharmacology and Toxicology. So that being said, Dr. Kerr is our featured faculty member of the day. He is currently the Associate Provost for International Affairs here at MCPHS, He's a professor of medicinal chemistry. And before he actually has been at MCPHS for 28 years. We're very happy to say that. He started as an assistant professor and moved into various positions while with us. He has been a part of the pharmacy science department. He was a chair. He was a senior associate dean and interim dean for the School of Pharmacy in our Boston campus, and now is a part of the provost office. And before Dr. Kerr came here, he received his Bachelor of Science in Chemistry from St. Xavier's College in Mumbai, and then followed that with a Bachelor of Science in Technology of Pharmaceuticals and Fine Chemicals from ICT, also in Mumbai, before migrating over to the US and joining the University of Buffalo, New York for his PhD, and then going to do a postdoc at Yale University. So without further ado, Dr. Kerr.
Thank you, Lauren, and welcome and good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. It's a real pleasure that you could give us your time today, because I know it's a really busy time of the season, academically, celebrations-wise. And so, we are just grateful that you could spend some time with us. As Lauren mentioned, I have been associated with the university at Mass College of Pharmacy and Health Sciences since 1996. So this is my 28th year at the college. Pretty much been through, I would say, all the ranks, if I can use that term, from assistant professor to full professor, and then also administratively, now presently working in the provost office, dealing mainly with international affairs, which includes meeting students like you or prospective students like you, but also with trying to do some affiliations and collaborations with other institutions and healthcare industries that are located all over the world. So I do a lot of travel and do meet students abroad, and also help with some of our agents that that are located abroad. I think, Lauren, if we can go into the next slide regarding the programs, I can talk a little bit about the programs. Thank you. So as Lauren mentioned, this webinar is basically to introduce you to some of our undergraduate programs. And there's several undergraduate programs that are sort of related or part of what we call pharmacy and pharmaceutical sciences. So one of our major programs, of course, is our PharmD. As you can imagine, we were originally called the Massachusetts College of Pharmacy when we first were incorporated, and that was 200 years ago. We are presently celebrating our 200-year anniversary. And so we were pretty much pharmacy for, I would say, close to 150 years. Since then, we have diversified, and we now give programming in almost every area of health sciences, including pharmacy. So one of our major programs is the Doctor of Pharmacy. It's a 6-year direct entry program. Students from high school having the necessary sort of qualifications in science, chemistry, biology, things like that, are sort of eligible to apply for the 6-year program, where the first 2 years are what we call the pre-pharmacy courses, and then the next 4 years are the professional pharmacy courses. I might mention that our PharmD program also will give students a bachelor's in pharmacy and life sciences, which is actually a STEM program. So it is designated as a STEM program. And so which would also allow students, if they do decide to do something in the pharmaceutical sciences, there's the option of what we call practical training that can be up to 3 years. So basically, anyone coming to the US who has a degree program or completes a degree program is eligible to do a practical training for 1 year. If it's a science, technology, engineering, and math designated program, then there's the opportunity to extend that 1 year training to an additional 2 years. So it's totally 3 years. So the PharmD will give you a Bachelor of Pharmacy and Life Sciences, and so you do have that option. Our PharmD, again, it's a lot of sciences in the sense pharmaceutical sciences, but it's also clinical sciences. So you will be working with patients, as well as, doing the basics in pharmaceutical sciences, such as pharmaceutics, pharmacokinetics, pharmacology, medicinal chemistry, and things like that. So it's a very broad-based program, which basically allows a student from the PharmD program to go anywhere in pharmacy or pharmaceutical sciences. At present, a lot of our PharmD students after graduation go into what we call our biopharmaceutical fellowship program, which is a 2-year program working with the different pharmaceutical industry that is out, in Boston as well as all over the US. And so they work in medical affairs and pharmacovigilance because they have the training both from a clinical sense as well as from a pharmaceutical science sense. And so that's a really good option as well, once you complete the PharmD. But with your Bachelor of Pharmacy and Life Sciences, you can also go into the research area of the pharmaceutical industry. So you will have that type of experience. So that is our PharmD program. There are other certificates you can do with that if you're interested. And once you look into some of the programming that we offer from the School of Pharmacy and PharmD, if you go to our college catalog, you can see some more detailed options over there. The next program that we have out of the School of Pharmacy in Boston is our bachelor's in pharmacology and toxicology. As the name implies, again, this is a pharmaceutical science type of program where you will be learning more about pharmacology, biochemistry. You'll also learn about how to handle animals, to do some testing, what we call preclinical testing, where we work with both cell cultures and also with small animals. And so that trains one to go into a more pharmaceutical science type of research, where they are looking at new drugs that are coming out of the bench and then testing them for preclinical studies to see if, of course, they could be made into viable drugs to be sold to the public. So that's our pharmacology and toxicology program. There are opportunities to do internships over there, as well as to work with a faculty member in the final year of the pharmacology and toxicology. So you can do sort of independent research and own something when you're in that program. This is also what we call a STEM program. And so again, there's that option for students if they do want to do extra training in the United States. There's an option to continue that training for up to 3 years based on your F1 student visa status with us. So that's our pharmacology and toxicology. I should mention again, for all our programs, I would say, bachelor's programs at Mass College of Pharmacy, we have something known as the core curriculum, where there's some what we call core educational courses that everyone needs to take. And usually this gets accomplished in the first 2 years of your matriculation when you join over here. So these are courses in some math, some calculus, biology, chemistry, organic chemistry, physics, things like that, which generally students, there's also, I should say, humanities courses, where students complete in the first 2 years. And then, of course, the third and fourth year, you tend to get down to more of the program-specific courses. So in the case of the pharmacology and toxicology, you will do some physiology, some biochemistry, pharmacology, maybe some biopharmaceutics. And there's also options to take elective courses, which also could be at the graduate level. So you do have an opportunity to take graduate level courses in your senior year. We can talk more about that later, but the graduate level courses then also gives you an opportunity to get further credentialing in another area, such as, let's say, regulatory affairs or clinical research. So coming to the next program, which is our pharmaceutical science program, that's the Bachelor of Science in Pharmaceutical Sciences. Again, as the name implies, you're pretty much doing a lot of the sciences related to the discovery, the research, the testing, marketing, and some of the regulations surrounding pharmaceutical drugs. And so again, you need to come in with some prerequisites from high school regarding chemistry, biology, math a little bit, and things like that. But again, pharmaceutical sciences tend to be a little bit more towards the pharmaceutics area. So pharmaceutics is an area where one talks about the actual drug, which is going to be made into a dosage form. So if you think about discovery of a drug, let's say someone invents or finds something out from the laboratory, synthesizes something, how do you actually get that to the market? What's the type of formulation? Will it be a tablet? Will it be a suspension? Will it be an injectable? So the science dealing with how to make that drug into a viable formulation is actually pharmaceutics. Presently in pharmaceutics, there's a lot of what we call nanoparticle development. In fact, I should mention the Moderna and Pfizer COVID vaccines were basically nanoparticles, where they delivered some of those RNA molecules to provide immunity. So we do have faculty who are very experienced in nanoparticle design and discovery. We also have a 3D printer that can make pharmaceuticals for individuals, what we call patient-specific type of formulations. And you can learn that in our Pharmaceutical Sciences program. I should mention again, in this program, there's a lot of scope both in pharmaceutical sciences and pharmacology and toxicology. There's a lot of scope in the mid-level range for research scientists. And so graduating with a degree in pharmacology or pharmaceutical sciences, there's tremendous scope for opportunities in the pharmaceutical industry. Again, with pharmaceutical sciences, there is an option to take graduate level courses and then, continue either into a graduate program or, just find a position in the pharmaceutical industry. So a couple of other courses that tend to be more programmatic specific for pharmaceutical sciences is pharmaceutical analysis and pharmaceutical technology. Again, both of these courses are in high demand from the pharmaceutical industry. So that's our pharmaceutical science program. We also have what we call pharmaceutical business, pharmaceutical and healthcare business, a bachelor's program, which tends to deal mainly, I should say, a lot with the economics of a pharmaceutical industry. So while there is some courses sort of relative to pharmaceutical sciences, just to understand the drug discovery process, many of the other courses are related to the business side of a pharmaceutical industry. So you'll do some financial courses, some accounting courses, program management type of courses. And all of this can help one get, again, into a pharmaceutical industry because one will learn some of the terminology, but also, the type of financial expertise that one would need if one wanted to run a pharmaceutical business. I should also mention that all of these programs allow students to continue to do a master's in something like regulatory affairs or clinical research, or even any of our management programs that we have from our School of Healthcare Management and Technology. So these are the 4 major programs out of the School of Pharmacy. I should mention that we do have other types of credentialing. We have a so-called, pharmacovigilance. We have a certificate in regulatory and health policy, certificates in clinical research. And so there are also other options for students to get some extra credentialing. One more thing I would like to mention is that the college has been awarded some really good grants from the state and from something called the Mass Life Sciences, where we have been asked to develop programming to help credential students or people who want to get into the pharmaceutical industry to get some hands-on experience on the instrumentation. So far, the college has received almost 3.5 million in grant funding from the State Department. And also, we've been tasked to train people to be sort of workforce ready for the pharmaceutical industry. So these are, I think, very exciting times for the college. Our name is definitely getting out there. We have been recognized by the state, by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, for our expertise. And we are actually developing relationships with pharmaceutical industries, both in Massachusetts, where, as I mentioned, we have a biopharmaceutics fellow program where almost 100 fellows are part of that biopharmaceutics fellow program. But we also have companies like Novartis who send their employees to us to get a master's degree in either regulatory and health policy or some other type of credentialing. So I'll stop over there, Lauren, if that's okay. And if there are questions, I can always come back. But maybe we can continue with the rest and get
Absolutely.
the students to talk a little bit.
Of course.
So thank you, everybody. Yes.
Thank you, Dr. Kerr. That was really helpful. I want to remind everybody, if you have questions about any of these programs, so please start putting them in the Q&A section, and we will definitely take our time to answer them. And with that being said, we will start our student panelists out with Miss Alyssa Rosenblum. So I'll hand it over to you, Alyssa.
Hello everyone. Hi. My name is Alyssa Rosenblum, and I'm currently a second year in the Pharmaceutical Science undergrad program. I am from the US. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to kind of give you the international student experience, but I'm still going to try really hard to ensure that if you are interested in this program, I can give you as much guidance as possible. I do think this is a really valuable program to have, especially if you are not as interested in something like direct patient care, but you still want to be a valuable part in the healthcare industry, which I think is a really just valuable thing to have in something that is growing so fast like that industry. So in terms of schooling and stuff, I do have a work study and I work for the Dean of Students. So if you have any kind of like questions about that, I can totally answer in terms of like handbook stuff. And I'm also a CERF candidate. And that is a really good program to have in terms of internships. And what it basically means, it's an acronym. It's Summer Undergraduate Research Fellowship, and it's a really good program we have, and it's like extremely valuable, not just something to put on a resume, but it will really help you in terms of experience and understanding what your future career will be like, because this is something you're going to be doing for the rest of your life, you know? Basically, you'll have the opportunity to work under the guidance of a MCPHS faculty member who has their own projects and some kind of research going on, and you'll be able to join them for the summer. I believe it's about close to the ending of school, so beginning of May to about the end of July, and you get a stipend and money and all that stuff, and you'll basically be on your own under the helpful guidance of a faculty member and be getting like a taste of what you'll be doing as a post-college person in the healthcare workforce. This program is also really good. As Dr. Kerr mentioned earlier, my program is really focused on the area of pharmaceutics, and pharmaceutics has a nickname. It's called the Science of Drug Dosage and Design. I'm not sure if it's a nickname necessarily, but just another thing to call. And it's what I'm really interested in. It's really what I want to do. When a lot of people ask me why I'm doing this, I say research and development, because I don't really know how to explain it to a lot of the people that I know that aren't really in this field. But it's really just taking something that has been created and already exists and figuring out how to administrate it in a way that will work for the person and won't, you know, cause other horrible things. What I'm really interested in, especially, is chemotherapy. Basically, I want to do is, as you know, cancer is a very harmful disease. It's really hard thing to go through, and chemotherapy, I have a lot of people in my family that have unfortunately dealt with cancer, and a lot of them tell me that they felt worse on the chemotherapy than they did just from the cancer. So what I'm really interested in is finding a way to go in and take the chemotherapies that we already have and other forms of therapy for cancer, and finding out a way to make them more targeted on the cancer cells specifically, finding out how we can make it less toxic to the rest of the body so that you can still get the help you need, but not be so, sick and bedridden. My major is definitely focused, again, if you're not interested in direct patient contact, like I said, I have a lot of sick people in my family. And when I was really little, I did want to be a doctor and I was really into that. But as I grew older, I found out that I was way more interested in necessarily just the science behind our medicines and stuff like that than I was in really sitting down with someone and trying to diagnose their conditions. And I was really interested in conditions, but I just wasn't really interested in like talking with the patient and stuff. And I think maybe I am good at talking, but I don't think my kind of way of life would necessarily fit the role of a doctor. So if you still really, really want to kind of be a helping hand, because what we do in terms of pharmaceutics and as well as pharmacology and toxicology will end up helping those patients. We are a little bit like the backbone. We're giving them the things that they need to get better, aside from, of course, the rest of their medical team. So there's, again, the SURF program. So you'll have a lot of research opportunities through MCPHS. And we also have career services, which is a department in our school. And they can also help you in terms of getting other jobs and internships from other areas. That's my alarm, sorry. So we are in a really good area. Massachusetts is considered like the epicenter of a lot of pharmaceuticals and research in terms of that. So we are surrounded by a lot of companies, and especially in Cambridge and Brookline, there are so many biotech and pharmaceutical companies just starting up from the ground. So definitely through our career services, and as well as just browsing the internet, which is what I do every day. And I'm just looking for internships and stuff. So you'll definitely see a lot of that. And a lot of them are also really open to undergraduate students, just because there are a lot of us here who are in this field. So it may not work out for your first year because you'll still need to get a little bit of experience and stuff. But by your second year, I have started doing this, and I suggest that a lot of you also start doing this. But even if you don't think you'll get it and you're afraid, just start applying. Just get a feel of what you need to do, get used to the process of applying, because that will really help you, especially after you graduate. My goal after school is definitely, of course, graduate school. It's really important to continue your education in this field. And you can definitely get far with just a bachelor's, but you can also get farther with a master's and or a doctorate degree. Not sure how far I'll get, but I'm hoping to at least get my master's, and I'd really like to also get an MCPHS. We do have a lot of master's and PhD programs here in terms of this. So even if you are studying like PharmD or something, you can definitely come back and get an MS or something like that. We have so many in terms of like medicinal chemistry and other things like that, as well as a master's in pharmaceutical sciences, which is another thing that I want to quickly bring up. If you are in the BS program of pharmaceutical sciences, in the end of your third year, you can apply to the master's program and get your master's within 5 years. So automatically you'll just go straight in, and it'll be amazing and awesome, and you'll get so much help, because my program director, Dr. Sanjay Gaikwad, is really awesome, really amazing, and he is just so helpful in explaining things and making sure that you're getting where you want to go, just because there are so many opportunities and sometimes you just need a little bit of direction. Another thing that I really want to focus on as well is diabetes. My father has diabetes, and it's kind of made our life go a little bit sideways. And I've seen a lot of, they can tell him what's going on, but they can't help him. And that's another thing that I really want to go into. I've seen a lot of, well, we know what you have, but we don't know how to fix it, So that's another thing I really want to go into. So if you also have something, a goal driven along the lines of that, then this is also a really good program for you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Alyssa, and thanks for sharing so much of your personal story. I think that's really helpful for students on the call to be able to relate to the students that we have here today. So just a reminder for anyone who is listening to Alyssa, if you have questions specifically for her, you can put them in the Q&A and we can also address those at the end. So with that being said, I'm going to pass it over to our International Student Ambassador who is on the call. Julie, can you unmute and take it away?
Hi everyone, my name is Julie Lee, and I'm in the second year of PharmD program. And I am Korean, and the languages I speak are English and Korean. For my extracurricular, I am part of the executive board of Student National Pharmaceutical Association, and I'm also volunteering in Brigham and Women's Hospital. And as Lauren said, I'm working on campus as an international student ambassador, and I recognize some of your names already. Thanks for joining. And my career goal after graduation is to become a hospital pharmacist. I'll explain more about this later on. And I chose MCPHS because of its diverse community focus on healthcare. I thought this will be a good practice, interacting with other students who are medical related, and I thought it would be a good practice to work in a hospital later on. And another reason was, oh, sorry, could you go back? Another reason was the support for international students. Like Andrew, before I came into this school, I got a lot of help from him. And right now, I'm getting lots of help from my upperclassmen years who are also international students. And I'll briefly explain more about SNAPHA, which is the Student National Pharmaceutical Association. It's a national pharmaceutical association that students create, and it supports specific diseases like diabetes or cancer, and it's really a good opportunity to get to know what pharmacists do and in the field. And could you go to the next slide, please? I chose PharmD because of my dad. He was sick and he had to take medication, and he suffered side effects from that medication. And it had a huge impact on not just him, but on our entire family. And since I was young, I wasn't able to do anything for him. Thankfully, he fully recovered and he is living his healthiest life now. And as I grew up, when I thought about that period again, I was fascinated by how medicine works in our body and how it impacts our lives. So I wanted to study more about it and help people utilize the capsule packed with current advanced techniques. Then my dream was to become a pharmacist, and specifically, I wanted to become a hospital pharmacist because I wanted to give patient care directly as I wanted to do to my dad when he was sick. Now I'm in the program. I am falling in love with PharmD program because it's not just limited to one medical field. I could become a retail pharmacist or a hospital pharmacist, industrial pharmacist, or get into research fields. And this connects to what I want to do after my graduation. Since my current goal is to become a hospital pharmacist, it is really competitive to get into the residency program. And in MCPHS, it is really good to get in. It is competitive because it's located in the medical hub, as Lauren mentioned before. And in our professional years, we do rotations. where we can get hands-on experiences, what it will be like when we get the job. And there are many opportunities where we can get involved into to those hospitals. And currently, as I said, I am volunteering in Brigham and Women's Hospital. For international students, it is not allowed to work other than on campus. So what we can do is volunteer. And there are so many opportunities in all those hospitals, and they are open to students like us. So it'll be very helpful to get relationship with those pharmacists and other healthcare providers. It'll be helpful to get to know about the job and get the job after graduation. And for the residency, if I do the second year, which is more specified into a field, I'm interested in nutrition. So I could become a specialist pharmacist about nutrition. To explore my interest, I will be taking some elective courses about nutrition, and if I find more interest in it, I am also thinking to hold a minor degree in nutrition. And as I learn more about pharmacists, I also got interested in industrial pharmacists, which who works for pharmaceutical companies. And for that, in order to become an industrial pharmacist, there's a program called fellowship, and MCPHS has really strong connections with some pharmaceutical companies, which will help you get those and get experiences on it. And lastly, I also have some interest in research fields. So I am trying to go to seminars that is held in other schools as well. And PharmD program is a really open program for to explore your interest and get into the field. And that was it for me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Julie. Again, if anyone had questions about PharmD or anything that Julie was talking about, please go ahead and put them in the question and answer section. And now for our final student panelist, Ravanth, if you could please unmute and share your story.
Hello, everyone. Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon, where you're from. My name is Revant Tata. I'm an international student coming from India, mainly the southern part of India, Hyderabad. So I'm a sophomore majoring in Pharmacology and Toxicology at the Mass College of Pharmacy and Health Sciences. Starting from the basics, I chose pharmacology and toxicology due to numerous reasons, but some of them being my peculiar interest that peaks in learning more about how a drug works inside the human body, what are the side effects it can have, and how can I create more patient-oriented and human-oriented medications rather than giving a wide range of medications to all patients, saying this might work for you. My goal my life goal is to become a pharmaceutical scientist or a scientist in life, and I want to create more new medications, and that are mainly focused in neuroimmunology, because that's where my interest peaks. Neurology and neuroimmunology are two topics when if I start talking more and more about them, I can go on for hours. There's something about neurology and something about when I first started learning about neurons. It's so embedded into my brain that I am so interested in them. I chose MCPHS because of multiple reasons, and one of them being the expert faculty that I was able to become in contact with before I came to the university, and how I had any questions, I just reached out to them through email, and then the responses I got back immediately were more and more welcoming, and students have access to some of the best minds in the industry, and one of the best minds in the industry is currently with us, Professor Stephen Kerr. I've heard a lot about him, and currently I have my TA. His name is Shreyas. I've if I have any questions, I usually go to him. He's also a graduate student majoring in medicinal chemistry. He's from India and also from southern part of India. So I just felt a connection with him. I go to him any questions, and currently he's on a vacation for the weekend, so I won't be disturbing him. The other reason I chose MCPHS is state-of-the-art facilities that the university provides. That is, the including the laboratories that we have and the research equipment that we have with us. And I've been into the graduate level pharmaceutical lab once in my entire time at MCPHS, and I was so intrigued by that lab. I felt an inner feeling that I don't want to get out of that lab for almost the entire day. Is the amount of equipment in there. At first it gets onto you, it sticks onto you for a while. You just want to explore all the options you have, and then moving on, the resources provided to students with hands-on learning experience. If you're mainly interested in research, can MCPHS is one of the best options you can have. And the location, the university, as Lauren has mentioned during the beginning of the presentation, we had so many hospitals, medical industries, and also pharmaceutical industries all close by to the university, which the university has a lot of tie-up and links with. This helps us to be one of the only universities to have access to jobs and internships at the closest area. That is, you can be studying at school, and then you can have your time to go around, and then go to your internships is just quicker. um, my reason for why I chose pharmacy, or I mean pharmacology and toxicology, as I mentioned, is I'm interested in how drug works inside the human body, and how the adverse effects of drugs are also there. Like, if that comes under the toxicology wing of my department, and if a particular drug is good for you, it might not be good for another person, and the only differential factor is the genetic material and DNA present in them. And getting into the more and more about it, and the moment you start learning about it, it becomes a wide range of subject options, and it is an interesting subject. And you're not only restricted to research when you're taking pharmacology and toxicology. I have a couple of friends who are majoring in pharmacology and toxicology, but their interest in life is to become a doctor. You have the option to do that. Or if you're someone who's interested in research, and then not in creation or medication of drugs, you can do my major in pharmacology and toxicology, pick a minor in something different from that interests you, and then you can work there. um, I would say, in my opinion, this is the most unrestricted field you have in the entire MCPHS. We have um, we have branching out, and if you write those on a paper, I would say an A4 paper front and back would be filled out by picking this major and the amount of options you can have. My career goals that I have set up to myself are that I need to get a master's and a PhD, and after that, if I want, I would try to get a postdoc too, following the same path as Stephen Kerr, the Professor Stephen Kerr here with us. This is because uh, I like study. I Something about studies is just that I want to do more and more about it, and I just feel interested in working a lot, so I do that. And then, as an international student, I have not currently done any internships in my freshman year because it's very hard to find internships as an international student. But currently, I'm in my sophomore year, as I've mentioned, and I have a lot of opportunities coming up. I've applied to a lot of internships, and I'm currently looking for way more opportunities. And one of the advice I would say to all the international students coming in is, don't get disappointed during your first year saying you don't find any internships. It is extremely hard, and it's extremely competitive for international students to find it in their freshman year. But get past that barrier. That's the only restriction you're going to be having. And from your sophomore year, you will find plenty of opportunities. As I've mentioned, I want to get into grad school. I want to get into grad school. I want to do my master's and my PhD. But I want to do my master's in medicinal chemistry because my TA Shreyas, you can look at him in the picture mentioned. That is the picture from my lab. He's a wonderful guy. He's towards the very left. He has glasses on, and I think that's a gray hoodie he's wearing. That's him. Talking to him interests me more and more about medicinal chemistry. I'm so interested in medicinal chemistry currently because of him that I even have the flyer for graduate medical students with me, and I'm getting through it. If I'm confirmed with it, I'll make sure that's what I'm picking in. And I forgot to mention before, I'm also a part of a cancer and Lauren, could you go back to the slide before so that I can see? Um, So I'm a part of the Leukemia and Lymphomia Society. I'm a volunteer of it. I'm so sorry I forgot to mention about that before. Uh, uh, I have not personally lost anyone to cancer or leukemia, but during my eighth grade, I specifically remember reading an article about the number of people who have lost their life to cancer and leukemia. And uh, throughout my childhood, whenever I have a bugging question in my mind and I can't find an answer to, my father was my role model and he's still my role model. I go to him to answer any questions, to find answer for any questions. I went to him. We both had a heated conversation for about 45 minutes. And since then, someone who was interested in chemical engineering has turned their life around and is majoring in pharmacology and toxicology now. Moving on, I'm also interested in cancer treatment, as Alyssa mentioned. If there are any opportunities, I'm ready to work on cancer research opportunities. I may not be the best resource you have, but I'll tell you, if you get on board with me and if you want to learn with me, I'm the best one. I can help and work on with any student, and then I can work for numerous amount of hours. And I would say, as God's gift, sleep is not on my priority list because I sleep for 4 to 5 hours and I feel good and awake, but I don't recommend it to everyone. Moving on, if you have any questions, I'm ready to answer them, but that is my story. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, Ravon. I appreciate hearing about your story as well. So those were our three student panelists today, everybody. I hope you were able to learn a little bit more about the program that you were here to learn about, and also hear and be able to relate to some of the students that are currently at MCPHS right now that you can talk to. So with that being said, that is the end of the presentation pieces that we have. However, we are still here to answer your questions. So I'm going to go ahead and go over to the Q&A section of our chat. You all have access to put questions into the Q&A. So now is your opportunity to do that. There are a couple of questions that have been answered, but that I will be answering on the call. Just to help out, and if anybody on our panelists wants to add information as I go, please feel free to unmute, and we can help these students out. So one of our students was asking about transferring some of their credits to MCPHS. So I want everyone to know that we do accept transfer credits from accredited universities. The way this process works is you would actually send us your transcripts. If they are foreign transcripts, then we will need what is called a WES course by course evaluation. We will use this evaluation to determine which credits we can accept and which credits you might still need to do. So one thing that happens with international credits is sometimes there might be a chemistry class that's 2 credits where we need a chemistry class that is 3 credits. So sometimes you might say, hey, I already took this same level chemistry course, but we might need another chemistry course to fulfill that. So be mindful of that. You can send us your transcripts. A lot of my colleagues here have introduced themselves, and they work by region. So if you see Andrew has mentioned he is from South Korea, he helps with the South Korean market, you would send him your transcripts, and so on and so forth. For Canada, Krista, Africa, Middle East, it's Paul. Overall, you all have access to our international admissions email, and we will send this contact information to you after the webinar as well. Beyond that, we also had a question that Julie, I think you were answering a question about minors. Would you like to answer that live, please?
Yes, I have went to CASE CASE a lot, the Center for Enrichment and Success, about minors, and especially for PharmD programs, it will be difficult to fit in the minor programs if we go up to the professional years. So I might have to take some summer classes or but it would be better to start as soon as possible if you know what you're interested in. And if you have transfer credits, it'll be much easier to have those minor classes in your curriculum.
Can I just add to that, Lauren?
Please.
So, so the university does offer minor programming for those who are in a particular major. Usually it's an additional 5 courses at the minimum, but oftentimes some of the courses that you've taken in your first 2 years might count towards the minor. So if you are interested in a minor, so for example, a minor in healthcare business or a minor in healthcare management, or I think even health psychology offers. So there's several minors that are offered through the university. It's a matter of talking to the program director that sort of administers the minor programming in that particular discipline. The earlier you do it, the better it is, because then you can try and fill it in to your normal major schedule. Find out where the gaps are, which courses you need to take, and when you need to take them. As Julie mentioned, in the PharmD program, the PharmD program is a little tight in the sense the university offers students anywhere from 12 credits to 18 credits as what we call a full-time load. So if you're already at 18 credits, then it becomes difficult to fit the minor in because either you lack the time or you'll be paying extra tuition for the additional credits over 18. But if in your first and second years, you normally are not doing 18 credits. And so, if you want to do a minor, that's the time you can start filling in some of those course requirements where you won't have to pay any extra tuition. Yes, you'll have to take the course, but it's still within the 12 to 18 credits. So, the earlier you think about it, you can go to CASE. You do have a faculty mentor at CASE and you have a coach at CASE. So every student is basically gets a designated faculty mentor and a coach. Talk with them, make an appointment with the program director for the minor, and see how you can fit that in. So that's all I wanted to mention.
So going off of what Professor Kerr and Julie have mentioned, I was also interested by minor in business, and I went to my case officer. His name is Josh Beckett, Joshua Beckett. I just call him Josh. Uh, we met for like 2 weeks. In the time period of 2 weeks, we met for like 3 to 4 times because he knew I'm very interested in in minoring in business. And then he said, if you want to do that, you have to turn your schedule around. You have to take around 17 credits every semester, including your junior and senior year, so that he can fit those minor around. But he said, if it's an option for me, plan a couple of courses during the summer, and the opportunities you get here is, or the advantages you get here are more like the classes that are there for your minor, the courses you have to take, some of them can be taken online. And if they are taken online, you can pay the extra credit fees that you have to and do those during the summer in your free time while you're working an internship too. If your minor interests you so much and you want to do it, I would say try your best out there. Our case officers are going to be there to help you with it, and currently my case officer Josh is working on a schedule to incorporate some of the online classes for me during this summer, and then finding space for putting other classes during my junior year and my senior year.
Thanks so much for that overview, Julie, Dr. Kerr, and Revanth. Julie, I know that you have a Calendly link that you'd like to share, so would you like to talk about that?
Oh, yes. I'll share my Calendly link. on the chat. Since I work for the international admission office, I have my link where you can set a 30-minute meeting with me, and you'll be able to talk more about it if you have any questions.
Yeah, so this is a great opportunity for anyone on the call. So again, Julie is studying in the PharmD program. So you're more than welcome to schedule a 30-minute meeting. She can talk about her experience in the program, life at MCPHS, what her application process was like, what it's like to be a student worker while you're doing the PharmD program. So she'll share that information in the link, and we will send it to you all via email as well. But it's a great opportunity to get in touch with a current student. Unfortunately, Alyssa and Ravanth do not work in our office, so I don't have a Calendly link to share with you for them, but we are happy to connect you with students. So if you wanted to connect with a pharmacology or a pharm sci student, you can always ask, and we try our best to connect you with a student when they're available. I did want to address one question that was in the chat. It asked about scholarship opportunities for international students. So all of our international students are eligible for scholarships. So whenever you apply, we automatically review you for scholarships. You don't have to do an additional scholarship application. So whenever you do this, keep in mind that we do not provide full scholarships for our students. They are merit-based, which means they're going to be based on the merit or the quality of your application, your grade point average, and things like that. So at the time when you receive your offer letter from MCPHS, which typically can take around 2 or 3 weeks to hear back depending on the season, you will also receive your scholarship notice at that same time. So that's how that works. And your counselor, your direct counselor. So for instance, if you are living in the US, I would be your direct counselor. You would work with me with your scholarship if you had any questions after getting your scholarship letter. Okay, so I'm going to see what other open questions we have. We have a question asking for the recording of the webinar. So after this is done, all of you will receive the webinar recording. So that's completely going to happen. Don't worry about that. And we would also like to talk about the case office. So I'm happy to discuss it, but I think Alyssa might have an idea of what the case office is. So Alyssa, if you wouldn't mind talking about that. Julie did mention it, but this is a very important office that I think our students should be aware of.
Hello again. So yes, the case office is a really vital part of your MCPHS experience, and it's also another acronym, and it stands for Center for Academic Success and Enrichment, and it is a pretty good description of what they do. There are faculty, staff members in that office, and they will basically help you in terms of not only becoming used to your new college experience, but as well as any terms in your actual educational experience. And they want to ensure that you're getting the best out of your education in terms of scheduling, majors, minors, and a lot of other educational and academic things that you can do with them. And they do offer a lot of services. And like Julie said, that is the office that you would go to if you wanted to declare a minor or even change your major and other stuff. They also have what we call a MAC team, and a MAC team stands for Mentors and Academic Coaches, and they are comprised of a staff member as well as a student, and you all have a MAC team, and you will find out who they are when you do become a student at MCPHS, but they are another vital resource for you if you are in need of a little help in terms of your life at MCPHS and anything in terms of academics, tutoring, and just social life and other things like that. So they are a really vital resource when it comes to that kind of thing, especially if you're just lost and need a little bit of direction, because it is considered a small school, but we just have a lot going on. And so sometimes, especially I suppose if you're an international student and you're just not used to the environment, they are a really vital resource to help you get used to a lot of our other offices and services, as well as just if you have any questions on your academics and stuff like that.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Alyssa. We have time for one last question. We are over time here. Dr. Kerr, if you don't mind, I would like to pose this question to you. It is, if the MCPHS PharmD allows me to stay in the US for 3 years post-graduating, does that mean I can go into 2-year residencies or 2-year fellowships?
So the optional practical training, right? The way that that system works with the F1 visa status, it is that it allows you training to get additional training from your major program area. So it really depends in which area that you want to do that extra training. So like I mentioned, the bachelor's in pharmacy and life sciences basically is a STEM program. The PharmD program is not a STEM program. So the question is that if you were to do a PGY residency, how well do you relate it to either the STEM program, which gives you the 3 years, or the PharmD program, which is actually not a STEM program. So basically, our immigration officers make a determination on that. So it will be based on the job responsibilities, the job requirements, which then either allows you to do the 3 years, or if your job responsibilities does not tailor with the STEM programming, then it may not. So it's a question I can't say yes or no, because if you were to do the PGY residency, let's say you were doing a residency in pharmacokinetics. So that is like a STEM area, right? So you could say that's related to your bachelor's in pharmacy and life sciences, which is STEM, and that could qualify you for a 3-year. That means if you get your first year, you can extend it for 2 years. If you were to do it in a totally clinical area, then there's a question as to how well does it tie in to the degree program that you completed. So I can't say outright yes or no, because it depends on what the job requirements are, because that's what will be tailored in when the school immigration officer actually grants you that OPT for those extra 2 years. I hope that answers the question. So it's no hard and fast type of thing, but it's more nuanced because it is a State Department requirement that the university has to be in compliance with.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kerr. So unfortunately, that is all the time we have today. Thank you, everybody who joined us today. Thank you for your questions. And a very big thank you to all of our panelists that are on the call today, to the student workers and to our students who are here to share their stories. And of course, to Dr. Kerr, who is probably one of our most popular and maybe busiest faculty members that we have on campus. So thank you all so much. That is it for today. I hope you all have a great rest of your day and take care. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Look forward to seeing you on campus.